was trying to do the math on this. It was probably around 2012, 2013 to maybe early 2014.
Okay.
And this was like right after these new owners took over, and then they got like, I worked there. It was like the swanky spot.
Yep.
And I mean, I actually had a fun time. I learned a lot. I didn't make shit for money, but if you were in LA earlier, I mean, it was quite a scene.
Oh yeah, the Tonic Bar was the place.
I know. I'd like hear stories like some guy named Truth. I know David Avocado used to come in and give talks, and there was like a lot of raw food chefs. It was cutting edge.
Totally.
Hell, they put superfoods on the map.
100%.
Now it's just like an A-list actor kind of yuppie scene, you know.
Completely.
It's all good stuff, but yeah. But you're like, oh, this is like, I'm at the epicenter of alternative health and supplements.
Yeah.
And then half those people are just like, here's your card. Yes, master. What do I do now?
I know. I think it's indicative. It's like kind of a microcosm, macro situation of the Erewhon change, where it went from like being like really roots, integrous, high vibe health, and then it moved into like trend and fashion and celebrities. And I wonder if half the people who rolled over would have rolled over if their celebrities didn't tell them to. But I also think the big thing is mind control. And in the same way that you're tracking consciousness and looking at like, how is this happening? I'm like, how is the mind control operating through language? And then how can we hack it and free up these people's critical thinking again so that we could come together and get out of this mess?
Are you asking me? Because I don't like, I think about those exact things, whether, well, I like the lens of language, but I mean, I don't, to be honest, it's like, I mean, my wife and I, we up and moved. We're just like, this isn't, you know, we actually stood up against like a lot of the mandate. Like, I just, like, how can you, even if you are fine with doing it, you can't agree with this. And then you're labeled like just a sicko, and you know, everybody's killing everybody's grandmother, and then everybody's grandmother who did pass away is alone, and there's so much more sadness and tragedy and developmental issues with everything that was going on. So it's like, my child is not going to see anybody with a mask on.
Mm-hmm.
Never going to see us in that situation. And then I'm not like, I don't need anybody telling me what to do or to make these choices for me. And everybody in LA just was like, okie dokie, here's, you know, then it's just like, here's my barcode, here's my digital ID. Like, if you don't, I was like, this seems like the real easy, obvious place to like start making some stand. I was against the Patriot Act, but I wasn't going around making a stand. I couldn't up and relocate where I was living because fuck you, Patriot Act. Like, when Snowden came out in the 2000s, like, guess what? Turns out the government is like tracking all your stuff, and like people were like dumbfounded by that. And I was like, duh. Like, where did you think that wasn't happening? Like, what's going on? One of my best friends, his mother, who's Puerto Rican, back in the 70s, you know, she was just like a counterculture hippie activist back when they used to actually be counterculture activists, right? Like, now that whole group is like, here's my proof of stupidity.
Right.
But she had friends that were Black Panther members, and they hosted some dinners and little talks at her house. She just let them use the space, right? Like, just you know, counterculture concepts. Well, when my friend was in high school, they got boxes and boxes in the mail, and it was from some release of freedom of information, and it turned out the FBI for years, like 10-15 years after this, had been logging their phone calls. And I'm literally, it's like, him and his mom. She was a single mom. Like, hey, get ready for school, or mom, can you come pick me up? I'm like done hanging out with my friend. Like, basically just slightly hippie, regular old all-American life.
Hey, superstars. Thank you so much for sharing your sacred attention with me. If you are receiving any value whatsoever from my videos, I am encouraging you to give back, to pay it forward by supporting me on my Patreon community, on my locals community, on both. Your support allows me to keep on keeping on and to keep making content like this. It used to be much easier back in the days of a free press, but now, given all of the censorship and the shadow banning, it really is challenging for content creators to continue to put out so much work. I'll just speak for myself. I'm excited for it to be easier for me to continue to put out more content. And the primary way that it can be easier is by you supporting me financially by way of my Patreon and or my locals, where for as little as $5 a month, you get to be my hero and receive oodles of bonus content, and we both get to win. Okay, thank you so much for your support, for your attention, and for being omniscopic amazingness.